You've been told your entire life that investing is risky, that the safest path to wealth is to save your money, keep it in the bank, and never take chances. This advice has been given to women for generations, whispered in family kitchens, reinforced by parents who meant well, and echoed by financial institutions that benefited from your caution. But what if I told you that this conventional wisdom is mathematically destroying your financial future? What if the very strategy designed to protect you is actually the one keeping you poor? What if the very strategy designed to protect you is actually the one keeping you poor? If you're curious about how this happened and what you can actually do about it, I'd love if you subscribe to this channel. We're going to walk through the real numbers, the inherited beliefs that trap women in financial mediocrity, and most importantly, the single first step that changes everything. Let's start with the brutal mathematics. Imagine two women, both earning the same salary, both disciplined, both responsible with money. The first woman, let's call her Sarah, follows the traditional advice. She saves diligently. Every month, she puts $500 into a high-yield savings account, earning about 4% per year. It feels safe. The money is always there. She never has to worry about the stock market crashing or losing it all. Over 30 years of working, at $500 a month, she accumulates approximately $180,000 in savings. Now meet Jennifer. Jennifer takes the same $500 every single month, but she invests it into a simple index fund, tracking the overall stock market. She's not trying to pick individual stocks. She's not day trading. She's simply buying a small piece of the entire market, automatically, month after month, for the same 30 years. She faces volatility. Some years, she watches her account drop in value. Some years it surges. But historically, the stock market has returned about 10% per year on average over long periods of time. So Jennifer's account grows to approximately $1 million. Let me repeat that number because it matters. Sarah has $180,000. Jennifer has $1 million. Same contributions, same time horizon, same person. The only difference? Jennifer believed the mathematics instead of the fear. That gap isn't luck. It isn't because Jennifer is smarter or braver or more special. It's because compound growth in stocks demolishes the returns you get from savings accounts. And yet women are systematically guided away from this math. This isn't an accident of history. For decades, women were discouraged from investing for a reason. When you're investing, you're building wealth. When you're saving, you're parking your money somewhere safe and stable, and that stability serves everyone except you. Banks love savers. They pay you 4% so they can lend your money out at 6 or 7%. Investment platforms would rather you own actual assets because that's where generational wealth actually lives. But the narrative that was sold specifically to women was different. You were told to be careful, to not take risks, to prioritize security over growth. So let's talk about the 3 inherited beliefs that keep this cycle alive, because understanding them is the first step to breaking free. The first belief is this: investing is gambling. This is perhaps the most pervasive myth, and it's taught early and often. Someone you trust lost money in the stock market once, so they warn you it's too dangerous. You hear a story about a day trader who lost everything. Or maybe you just absorb the general cultural message that the stock market is a casino where rich people play with money they can afford to lose. But this conflates short-term trading with long-term investing, and they are fundamentally different things. When you gamble, the odds are against you by design. A casino makes money because over time, statistically, you lose. When you invest in the broad market for decades, the odds are historically in your favor. Not guaranteed, but historically favorable. From 1926 to today, missing just the 10 best days in the stock market over nearly a century of trading would have cut your returns roughly in half. That means even if you tried to time the market and get out before drops, you'd probably fail and end up much worse off. But staying invested through everything, that has worked for virtually anyone with a 30-year time horizon. That's not gambling. That's mathematics. The second inherited belief is that you're not smart enough to invest. You lack the knowledge. You'd make mistakes. You might choose the wrong stocks. This belief keeps women out of the game entirely because it sets an impossibly high bar. Somehow, we've decided that investing requires advanced financial training, when the most successful investors often recommend doing the exact opposite of what requires skill. They recommend index funds. They recommend automated investing. They recommend setting it and forgetting it. Warren Buffett recommends that most people put their money in low-cost index funds and stop checking it. That's not a strategy that requires a finance degree. That's a strategy a beginner can execute today. You don't need to know how to pick stocks. You don't need to understand every sector of the economy. You need to understand one thing. Over very long periods of time, the overall economy grows. Companies in that economy grow. And when you own a piece of all of them through an index fund, you grow with them. That is genuinely all you need to know. The belief that you're not smart enough is actually a barrier installed by an industry that profits from your inaction and your fear. The third inherited belief is that you need a lot of money to start. You need tens of thousands of dollars sitting around before investing becomes worthwhile. But this is mathematically false. Let's say you're 25 years old and you invest $100 a month. In 40 years, at a 10% average annual return, you'll have approximately $280,000. That same $100 a month into a savings account at 4% would give you $70,000. Even starting with tiny amounts, the math works. In fact, starting early with small amounts is far more powerful than starting late with large amounts, because compound growth needs time more than it needs money. Once you see through these three beliefs, the question becomes, what's actually stopping you? And the answer is usually fear, which is really just the echo of what you were taught. Someone told you the market is dangerous. Someone told you investing is for other people. Someone told you that you should just focus on security. And you believed them not because they were right, but because they were people you trusted, and it felt safer to accept the limit than to question it. But here's what's real. The market will drop. In the last 100 years, there have been crashes, recessions, depressions, wars, and panics. And every single one of them has been followed by recovery. Every single one. That's not optimism. That's historical fact. When you're investing for 30 or 40 years, short-term crashes matter far less than the overall trajectory, which is up. Your fear isn't protecting you. Your fear is making you poor. Now, here's where I want you to genuinely like this video if this is landing for you, because you've just heard something that contradicts what you've been told your whole life. And that takes courage to sit with. If you're feeling even a spark of recognition that maybe the traditional advice isn't serving you, that's worth acknowledging. So what's the one simple first step? It's this: open an account at a reputable brokerage and invest in a single total market index fund. That's it. That's the step. You don't need to figure out a complex strategy. You don't need to time the market. You don't need to understand everything perfectly. You pick a brokerage like Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. You open an account. You set up automatic monthly contributions, even if it's just $50. You select a total market index fund, which you can find in literally 5 minutes of searching. And you stop checking it. Don't watch it daily. Don't obsess over it. Don't trade in and out. Just invest and let it grow. That's the entire first step. It's not complicated because it doesn't need to be. The market does the complicated work. You just need to show up and participate. And if you're thinking about whether this is really how you get wealthy, the answer is yes. Some people get wealthy through business, some through inheritance, but the most common path to wealth is boring, consistent, long-term investing in index funds. It's not glamorous. It doesn't make for good television. It won't make you rich in 3 months, but it will make you rich. The women who are building generational wealth right now aren't the ones waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect knowledge. They're the ones who looked at the math, rejected the inherited fear, and started. They're the ones who understood that doing something imperfectly is infinitely better than doing nothing perfectly. They're the ones who realize that the risk of not investing is far greater than the risk of investing, because inflation eats savings alive and does nothing to invested assets that grow faster than inflation. So here's what I want to know from you, and I'd love to see your answer in the comments. What's the inherited money belief that's held you back the most? The idea that you're not smart enough? The feeling that you don't have enough money to start? Or is it something else entirely that you've absorbed along the way? Because naming it is the first step to moving past it. And moving past it is how you actually build the financial life you deserve.